Hi, welcome back to this 6-part webinar. This is number 6 of these webinars, which are on female health and fitness and nutrition. Today, we're going to be talking about recommendations for training and nutrition for women going through perimenopause, or at that stage of life. To go through some more specifics that could potentially help women, help them transition through that phase before they get to the menopause or post-menopause. So first off, who am I? If it's the first webinar, welcome. My name is Mark Fox. If you've been here before, maybe skip onto this bit because you've probably heard this another 5 times, or maybe you know me already. But my name is Mark. I've been in the industry 25 years. I always joke with my learners that whenever I'm teaching personal training courses, I always joke with learners that my career is older than they are. Their date of birth is in the 2000s, whereas I started in 1999. So I've been doing this for a very, very long time. You can tell by my weathered face, but I love it. That's why I'm still in this industry. The stuff that I've done in my career, I've done loads of stuff. I mainly teach PT courses and I do some online coaching now. Slowly moving back into some in-person because I miss it, but it's mainly the online aspects of coaching as well as teaching PT courses. I've been blessed to work in different parts of the world, teaching courses, doing personal training as well. So I've been around the block, to put it in politely. So you're in safe hands. So the information that I'm giving over is scientifically backed. I'm not just making this up. It's been well researched. I've got a lot of experience of working with women of various ages, mainly above 40, all the way into sort of 70s as well. So that's me. If you want to know any more about me, you can always reach out, but that's not who you're here for. You're here for the information. So the things that we're going to go through today is strategies. So we've got nutritional strategies. We've got exercise strategies to help you go through that perimenopause phase, to help you, what I would call, stride through that phase rather than just taking a step back and just letting it happen. We want you to take control. I want you to take control. So we'll talk about nutrition and exercise. We'll talk about the hormones and trying to balance that with good nutrition, with good sleep and recovery. And then we're going to obviously give you very specific recommendations for food and for exercise as well. So first off, why adapt training? Well, your hormones are going to be all over the place. So estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, all these things are going to be up and down. They're going to be like dropping as you slowly go through that transition, that phase of a woman's life. So they're going to affect your energy levels, potentially your muscle mass, your bone density, your metabolic rate is going to be affected. Potentially you could put on a little bit of body weight. So ideally, adjusting your training, focusing on certain areas, and adjusting your nutrition, again, working on certain areas is going to be really beneficial. You're not going to eradicate going through perimenopause, but it will certainly help. Rather than, as I said a moment ago, rather than taking a step back and just letting it happen, hopefully by this point of your life, you've got enough time and effort to be able to put a little bit more into you. I think that's really important. I think women, as they're going through the perimenopause, they do obviously tend to be slightly older, sort of mid-40s, 50s. Some women can obviously start early. Everyone's going to be completely different, as I spoke about in the last webinar. So generally, a lot of women will have maybe built up a career that they're now settled, and maybe they've got kids that are older. So maybe they've not been pulled here and there and everywhere, so they've got a little bit more time to spend on themselves. So this is ideal. I think this sort of webinar is ideal for women to help them understand that they can take control of their body, of their life going forward, because they've actually got the chance to do it now. So first off, we'll talk about training in general, so exercise. So generally, I'd always recommend, even for women that aren't going through perimenopause, to do mainly strength training. I think if you've watched some of the other webinars before, I really go on about this, is that women tend to stay clear of weight training because they feel they're going to bulk up. Maybe they think it's not for them. It could be quite an intimidating place because it tends to be full of young guys or even old guys in those nipple vests that are taking over the gym, so I can understand why women would stay clear of it. But I'd always recommend 2-3 days a week of doing strength training. Like around 20-40 minutes worth of strength training. It doesn't need to be hours and hours on end. Potentially like 2-3 workouts of 20 minutes of strength training is going to have a massive impact on a woman's body, on your body. So it's something to think about if you've not tried it before. We'll talk about the movements in a moment. Compound movements is one of them. And then also on top of that, the cardiovascular aspects. So we're talking, obviously the strength training is more the increasing your bone mass, like maintain a higher metabolic rate, because more muscle mass means more calories burnt, or obviously keeping your body strong, so you can functionally adapt to the world around you. In cardiovascular work, I think a lot of women will go towards the steady, what we call steady state, where you're just working for hours and hours on end on a Stairmaster or on a treadmill or going out running. That does has its place, but generally, certainly for bone health, it's really quite poor for women, certainly as they're going through perimenopause, because they're at higher risk of certain ailments. So like what I would call HIIT or interval type training, high intensity interval training, once or twice a week, potentially with your strength training day. So you do some strength training, then you do some HIIT at the end, no more than about 10 minutes, which we'll talk about. And that could be done with resistance equipment, could be done with cardio equipment. So I'm telling you now, you don't have to spend hours and hours on a Stairmaster that you see these young girls doing in the gym. Young women, sorry, I shouldn't say young girls, should I? Young women in the gym. That they've got all the time in the world to train for hours on end. You've got a busy life, most likely. If you're watching this webinar back and you're at a certain age, you've probably got a busy work life, you've got a busy home life, maybe you've got a busy social life, maybe you've got busy hobbies. You haven't got enough time. You're probably not have enough energy or willpower to spend half an hour on a Stairmaster. Leave that for the kids of the world, for the younger people that are half our age. So strength training, then the recommendations, like frequency, we mentioned 2 to 3 times a week. Twice, if you can maintain twice a week, like it's going to change your life. I think people assume that you should be training every day to get results. Yes, training more will get you probably quicker results and potentially better results if you train appropriately, but generally twice a week until you die is like, if you can manage that, you will feel and look amazing. If you can manage 3 times a week, that's the Goldilocks figure of like the perfect figure. You can go more if you want to, but if you can get up to 3, it's even better. Rep ranges, we've got 5 to 8 reps. I'll probably go up to 10 reps as well. So you're keeping it quite heavyweight. So if you understand about 1 rep maximums, they're basically how hard you're lifting. Basically, it's like a measure of how hard you're lifting. So how much you can lift once, a percentage of that will give you those reps that you should be working towards. So if you're working up to a 5 to 8 reps and potentially maybe up to 10, you're going to the point of near failure, where you've maybe only got 1 to 2 reps of what I would call reps in reserve. So quite hard, which again, I don't think a lot of women do. The guys that I've trained in the past as well, they don't tend to push themselves. That's why people don't get results. It's not just they're doing the wrong things in the gym. Potentially they're not training hard enough. So it's key for women to really push themselves. You've got 10 times less testosterone in your body compared to a guy. So like that muscle building hormone of testosterone isn't there. So it's going to be really difficult for you to maintain and build muscle. So it's really important that women do push themselves. And also it's fun. It's fun to see what the body can do. Okay. Women, I do see what I've trained over years. It's more about taking away, because they're always thinking about losing weight because society tells them they should be a certain weight, like size and shape. But really should be about what your body can do, really pushing it and seeing the limits of what your body can do. The movements, if you've seen some of these webinars before, I'm really favoring what's called compound movements. So movements where you're utilizing more than one joint or more than one muscle group. Squats, lunges, deadlifts, pull-ups, bent over rows, bench press, press-ups, anything that requires lots of muscle groups, because it's going to help you functionally in life. You'll be overall stronger. You'll have balance. And again, it's just fun to lift big, heavy weights. There's less chance for you to hurt yourself than doing lots and lots of reps on a single joint that you see a lot of people do, because it almost could eventually lead to overuse. We mentioned about lifting heavy, so that's what progressive overload is on the slides. But it's really important we push ourselves when we do this. But don't be afraid of dropping down those reps and lifting heavier weight. Stay clear of the 12s, 15s, unless you really want to. Maybe you're going to use it for cardio, or maybe it's you just want an easier workout because you're tired for the day. But generally, keep the reps lower, push yourself. Cardio then, so we've spoken about resistance work. Cardio, I do favour, as I said earlier, interval training or high intensity interval training where you're working near your max. So you'll see on this slide, I'll say it now because I'll say it every webinar, these slides sometimes are a bit text heavy, which usually in a presentation you wouldn't do that because you're supposed to be listening to me, the presenter. But the reason why I've added more information on these slides is that I give you access to these slides in a folder on Google Drive. So you can almost use it as a mini manual or mini like guide. So if you're looking at these slides and going, oh wow, how there's so much text on there, how can I read through as you're listening to me? Don't worry about that. Go back and read through it and potentially take some notes from those slides. So back to cardio. So as I said, I favour high intensity interval training where we're working near that max. So maximum heart rate is how hard your heart can work. If you're wearing something like an Apple Watch, a Google Pixel, a Garmin, a Fitbit, it'll probably tell you your maximum heart rate in the app, in the watch itself. It'll give you a percentage that you're working towards, which is really quite useful. And really, really quite simply, like high intensity interval training will boost your metabolic rate. It will increase your cardiovascular fitness. It requires less energy in general. It's going to require less effort over a long term. So usually when I've trained clients, asking them to, once they've built up a good level of fitness, to perform near their max for 10 minutes is a bit more doable than rather than them going on a Stairmaster and going for 45 minutes to an hour, working at a lower intensity, because for a lot of people just don't have the time or really the inclination to really want to do that. So it's also, if you're going to be doing high intensity work, you're going to be doing things like sprint work, power-based moves, which again promotes muscle maintenance and muscle building, which is great for metabolic rate. And generally, like too much cardio is massively going to affect your bone density, because it can have quite a catabolic effect if you do too much of it with low calories as well. So if you are trying to lose weight during the perimenopause, you're better off doing loads of strength training, this high intensity interval training, because you'll be better able to control your appetite. If you think when you've done loads of spin classes, loads of running, loads of time on the cross training Stairmaster, you're probably like famished. You almost want to like eat anything you can get your hands on. When you do strength training and paired with this type of cardio, you'll probably find you'll be able to control your appetite more, which then will lead to a lower calorie intake, which then leads to weight loss. That's a little bit of the exercise. I think we all should do some mobility work, because as we get older, the muscles become less pliable, less elastic. So our range of movement decreases. We tend to, as we get older, we go into more management roles, we go into more seated roles, maybe travel. So generally our body's quite tight in muscles. So I think it's really important that we start to incorporate more mobility moves. Whether or not that's good through warm-ups, good through cool downs and stretching. Maybe it's like getting a massage gun, like a Theragun, foam rolling, yoga, something that's going to give you a little bit of a bigger range of movement, so the joints there's not a lot of pressure on the joints, and you're less likely to pull a muscle. Also, when we think about mental health, certainly for women going through the perimenopause that can sometimes suffer from anxiety, depression, low moods, doing more focus work, things like yoga, something the way you're spending a little bit of time just like thinking about breathing on certain movements, can actually help you mentally. So it's not just a physical thing; it is a mental thing. So this is one of the slides that I covered in webinar 2, which is planning a workout for a woman. So I've just pulled it in to this here because it's a great way of planning a workout. So I'm giving you some tools to help you build your own workouts. because you may have a really good understanding of what exercises are, but you might not have an understanding of how to put it together to make a workout. So on the left, you've got a how-to guide. On the right is a range of exercises. And basically, you pick an exercise from each column and then combine them together. And I'll give you some recommendations, 3 to 4 sets. I've got 6 to 10 reps. You could do as low as 5. I know it said up to 8, but you can go all the way up to 10. Rest times are still quite short, but long enough to still recover. So you still need to rest. It's really important. But you can see there's a range of exercises, and all of them are compound movements. None of them, maybe looking at some, maybe a leg curl, that potentially is a isolation movement. But generally everything else is a compound movement where you're using lots and lots of muscle groups, which is going to help you burn calories. Your heart rate's going to go up, so you're going to get a cardiovascular effect on top of doing your hit at the end. So if I go to the next slide, just to show you, rather than read through how to do it, because you can do that when you're away from this presentation. So basically you pick an exercise from each of these columns and then combine them together. So really simply, exercise from column 1, one-arm row, column 2, goblet squat. Put them together as a superset. So you're going to perform a one-arm row for your upper back and your biceps, and then follow that by a goblet squat, which is for your quads, your hamstrings, and your glutes. You do those back to back without any rest, and then you'd rest for 60 to 90 seconds, and then repeat that 3 to 4 sets. Working to the point where you're feeling like you can only do maybe 1 or 2 more reps when you do that. So you're really pushing yourself. Once you've done that combination, you then go into the combination 2. So my choices were chest press machine and remaining deadlift. That could be with a barbell or a dumbbell. Again, do them back to back, no rest. And then once you've done both of them, then have a rest. Repeat for 3 to 4 sets. And then I've done a third combination, plank, so I've done some core, but I've chosen 2 with med ball slams, something a bit more explosive, but it's working all the anterior, all the front, all this core as well as your shoulders, and combine them together. Obviously a plank you don't do for reps, you do it for time, so that's why I've put 30 seconds. So that in general could probably take you 20-30 minutes based on the rest times, based on the setup and moving around the gym. So it's a really, really effective workout for a woman to perform that gets a lot of volume done. So you're burning loads of calories, but you're doing lots and lots of volume on different body parts as well, meaning you're going to build a good overall round body itself. So you've got balance. You're not working on certain areas more than others, which could lead to imbalances and then obviously injuries. Really, really simple. You could do that 3 times a week and you'd be golden. You'd be amazed the results that you get. If you were to get bored or you want to change, or maybe after about 6 to 8 weeks, all you do, make the same combination again, but just pick different exercises. Simple as that. If you wanted to, you can combine more than 3. You can maybe make I would call it a tri-set or a triple, where you put 3 together. So potentially you might do the first 2 with 2 exercises each, and maybe that C1, C2, you might add in a third. Maybe you want to work a little bit more on your legs and your glutes. So you might do plank, med ball slams, and then a Swiss ball leg curl, for example. Combining exercises is key because it gives you that cardiovascular effect, certainly when you're doing upper body and lower body. So it's pumping blood to different parts of your body, so your heart rate goes up, which means you burn more calories as well as build muscle. So a ton of benefits. If you want any more details on this, just do reach out to myself. I can give you a ton of resources to go through. And then the cardio bit, really, really quite simple. Like pick a cardio machine that you can do explosive work. So like a treadmill is not the best because it takes too long to speed up. And I don't want you to jump on and off the treadmill like you see a lot of people do. But things like a row machine, a skio, the one that you sort of pull down, almost throw to the floor, like a ski machine, a spin bike, even a normal upright bike is quite good. A row machine, anything that you can go from like 0 effort to almost max effort is going to be great for this. If you're outside and you're quite happy running, then you could do some sprints outside, but just be very careful. It's not probably the most recommended thing to do if you've not done it before, because you're more likely going to hurt yourself. So when we do this, recommendations are going to be, if we look at the bottom, the ratio of 1 to 1 or 1 to 2 basically just means you'll work So the bit where you're working really hard, and your recovery, the bit where you're trying to catch your breath. You're cursing yourself because you've made yourself do this, or I've encouraged you to do this. You're cursing my name. So if we look at the example, work for 30 seconds at 9 out of 10, not 10 out of 10, leave a little bit in the bag, but 9, near max effort, where you're to the point where you can't speak. You can maybe give a one-word swearing answer to someone, "Are you okay?" You tell them to F off. That's just how hard you want to be. And then you recover for either the same amount of time or double. Potentially you could recover for 3 times, but we want to keep this short and sweet. We want to do no more than 10 minutes. So 30 on, 30 off, or 30 on, 60 seconds off. Potentially if you're doing longer, it could be 60 seconds on, which is quite a tough interval working at 9, and then 60 seconds off, or it could be double that. It could be 2 minutes off. It's totally up to you, but try and keep it within sort of that 10 minutes. So the rounds you're going to do is probably potentially only going to be maybe 5 to 10 rounds. Short and sweet. It's about intensity. If you feel like you can do 20 minutes of this, you're not working at 9 out of 10. It's really important that you push yourself. Your heart rate's right up there, 90% of your maximum heart rate. So it's without oxygen. So I know we're saying cardio, but in working at that max capacity will increase your cardiovascular fitness as well. Burn a load of calories, build a little bit of muscle or maintain muscle. You're going to be explosive there, which is, again, is quite functional for day-to-day life. So a combination of that resistance workout for 20, 30 minutes with a 10-minute cardio, warm-up, cool-down. You could be in and out of the gym in 45 minutes, which is ideal really for someone who's a busy professional, maybe a busy mom, bringing up teenagers or whatever it is. You're empty nesters. You've got all the time in the world, but you don't have all the energy in the world. So, but you've got the effort to work really hard in the gym. No more than 60 minutes. If you're doing more than 60, you're probably not working as hard as you should, unless you're training for like a long distance event. You're training for like a physique competition, like bodybuilding or something very specific. There's no need to do that much work. Do not worry about it. 45 minutes is like again, that Goldilocks figure. Like with a warm up and cool down, you'd be amazed what you can do in 45 minutes. I always encourage all my clients just to do no more than 45, but I still expect them to work quite hard in that time. So it may take a little bit of time for you to build up that fitness. Again, if you want any more information, do reach out. Okay, on to nutrition. So nutrition. So we're going to be talking about specifics of macronutrients, so your proteins, carbs, and fats, why it's key for each of those, and what are some of the benefits of making sure that you're getting enough of each of those and it's a balance. And then we'll start to talk about hydration as well, and some key recommendations other than the typical 2 to 3 liters a day. And then we'll talk about supplements. So some key vitamins and minerals that potentially you could supplement with. I'm not a huge fan, but it could help if you're quite deficient, if you just don't have enough time to eat certain foods, or maybe you don't like those foods. So a general overview. So don't worry if you are not one for tracking your macronutrients, but I put these in here because a lot of women do like to do that. They like more specifics to work towards. I'll go through some recommendations, which is purely going to be on hand portion sizes. I've got some great resources that explain this in more detail, so you can just reach out to myself and I can send you those for free of charge. Don't worry about, I'm not going to charge for advice that I'm giving you. So for protein, quite high. You can go as low as maybe 1.5, but we want like nearly 2 grams per kilo of body weight, purely because during that perimenopause, potentially you're going to experience some sarcopenia, which is muscle loss. We don't want to lose muscle because muscle keeps our bones strong. It keeps us functionally active. It means that we're less likely to store body weight because we've got more metabolically active tissue, which is muscle. So it's important that we keep it quite high. Women generally of any age are quite poor at getting the protein levels high. So it's important as we get older to keep it super high so we maintain the muscle that we've got. Carbs wise, carbs are not the enemy. We need around about 2 to 4 grams, so double what we're getting for protein. Carbs are there for gut health, so like making sure that you're getting enough fiber, so we're not going to get certain diseases, certain cancers. We're going to hopefully improve your gut microbiome as well, which is also could be affected because of those fluctuating hormones and reduction in those key hormones as you're going through perimenopause. There are lots of fiber. Again, it helps maintain muscle mass, because if you've got lots of energy there to train hard, it means that you're not going to use the protein that you've consumed or your muscle, so you won't be burning away your muscle. We don't want that. And if you're going to be working hard in gyms, you've got to make sure that you can actually you've got the energy, because carbohydrates is used when you're doing high intensity work. Fats wise, it's almost like half of what you would want for protein, all the way up to 1.5 grams per kilo of body weight, but actually still quite low. Fats are quite calorie dense, so it's 9 calories per gram of fat, whereas protein and carbs is 4 calories per gram of fat. That's why it's a lesser amount per total calories. We still need fats, really important for hormonal health, massively important for all sorts of other things as well. So it is still key on there to get that balance from there. Hydration wise, general guidelines is 2 to 3 liters based on activity levels. Certainly if we're talking about like some of your signs and symptoms, if you've listened to the webinar last week, we spoke about things like night sweats, feeling like you're overheating, temperature goes through the roof. Potentially you could be losing a lot more sweat than what you used to, so things like electrolyte drinks or those little tablets can help with the water as well, to make sure that you're not low on those, so you don't feel tired and lousy. So protein, really simply, I think most of us know where to get protein from. Lean meats, oily fish is a great source, because we're talking later about getting omega-3 oils in there. Eggs, dairy, low-fat dairy. If you're a veggie, plant-based proteins, things like legumes, beans, nuts, those sort of things. Although nuts are a fat source, they're still quite a good protein source as well. So like the minimum, I've got a little minimum there, but that's really quite low for women going through perimenopause. You want to be 1.5, but you've got to start somewhere. So if you've got an intake that's quite low, aiming for 1.2 per kilo body weight is a good start, but all the way up to 2.2. If you think 1.5 to 2 is usually what most women can get on a regular basis. So if it's 2 grams per kilo body weight and you're 60 kilos, it's 120 grams. So rather than weighing things out, if you look at your palm, like a palm size portion of protein would be around about 25-30 grams of protein. So imagine a chicken breast, a steak, a couple of eggs, that would be around about 25 to 30 grams based on the protein. Might be as low as 20. So actually it's not that difficult to get enough protein in there. If you supplement with protein shakes, usually a scoop is 20 grams. So that's going to be a portion size. So like per meal, at least a portion size of protein, like a palm, or potentially like double that, to make sure you're getting enough protein. Also helps you feel satisfied during a meal, so you're less likely to overeat as well. But it'll help you recover, help you build muscle, key for making certain hormones as well. Next one, carbs. These are the things that's going to keep you like high energy, make sure you've got good concentration levels. During perimenopause, one of the symptoms is a lot of women suffer from lack of concentration, mood swings. They're fluctuating blood sugar levels are a factor to those things because of those reduction in those key hormones. So it's important that we're getting good quality carbohydrates, so high fiber, whole grain type carbohydrates. So things like veggies, whole grains, fruits, starchy fruits, as well as the sort of sweet fruits as well. These will help manage blood sugar levels. Also help you to train hard. When you train hard, you can burn more calories. You can also build more muscle, which then will help you keep the weight off and keep you nice and strong and striving through perimenopause. So aiming for 2 to 4 kilos of body weight. You need less when you're less active, obviously. You'll need more when you're more active. So you just need to adjust. If you feel like you're not recovering in between workouts or recovering or just feeling energy-wise, it potentially could mean that you need to have more carbohydrates. But it's really important that we keep it to more nutrient dense, so more whole grains. So if you look at your hand again, rather than being your palm, think about a cupped, so think about dry pasta, dry rice. A cupped handful is a portion. So in a meal, it would be maybe 1 to 2 portions based on your activity levels. Start off with 1, see how you feel. If you need more, add a little bit more, maybe 1.5. Usually no more than 2 per meal, because that's quite a lot. You imagine how much rice that would be when it's cooked. It's quite a big meal. Obviously, you've got those recommendations in the grams per kilo if you want to be more specific. Lastly, fats. They're great for reducing inflammation, key for making these hormones that are fluctuating 1 gram to 1.5 grams of body weight. This one here, we're talking like a thumb size, which is quite hard sometimes with fats, but imagine how many nuts fit into a thumb. Not that many, maybe a tablespoon, not a dessert spoon, a tablespoon of something like olive oil could be a portion. You're probably aiming for maybe 1 of those per meal, potentially maybe a little bit more based on the other macronutrients. But it's there for obviously anti-inflammatory if you're consuming things like omega-3 oils, so oily fish, black seeds, walnuts are high in omega-3s, which is going to be great for reduction in inflammation. That's what's called polyunsaturated fats. Monounsaturated fats will come from more plant-based, which are things like olive oil, which is key there. So it's important that you get these as well, because it will help with regulating your hormones, but you just don't need as much. So if you are cooking with oil, take that into account. Then don't add oil at the end. If you can dry fry and cook without oil, that'd be ideal. Then you can add it at the end. Certainly if you're having oily fish or walnuts in a meal, you won't need to add anything. So there's some like specific recommendations for proteins, carbs, and fats, giving you it in grams per kilo body weight, giving you in hand portion sizes. If we come back, actually, one thing I forgot to mention about carbohydrates, I just spoke about what we call starchy carbs, like breads, rice, pastas, but actually vegetables and fruit are carbohydrates. Okay, so if we think about your fist, so imagine with your meal, you've got your palm of protein, or potentially 2 palms of protein. You've got a cooked handful of starchy carbs, and then you've got at least 1 fist full of veggies, which actually, if you look at your fist, it's quite a lot of veg. If you can get more than 1 fistful, amazing, but I think most people struggle with that. So 1 fistful of veg, then obviously that portions of fats on there. That's one thing I forgot to mention on the carbohydrates part. Vegetables and fruit is carbohydrates. They're lower calorie carbohydrates. Certainly vegetables are high fiber, but they're still classed as carbs. So when we look at meal timings now, so we've spoken about the specifics for nutrition for perimenopausal women, and why it's important for key macronutrients, why to get enough of it. I mentioned a few times already, like your blood sugar levels will fluctuate because of those hormones, so your energy levels will go up and down. So having good nutrition, good quality, high fiber foods will help regulate those. Ideally, no fasting. Women generally, when you look at research, because a lot of research on fasting, like intermittent fasting, is on young males. There's not much on women. If it is on women, it's postmenopausal. They're potentially in their 60s. There's nothing on women in general, and certainly women go through perimenopause. So there's no real benefit for women, because your sugar levels, even when you're not going through perimenopause, do fluctuate because of your menstrual cycle massively. You've probably felt this, you understand this. So intermittent fasting is a no-no. Ideally, we want regular meals, so our sugar levels are fairly constant. We're not getting these massive spikes and drops. So eating potentially, if you can, often. Yeah, so every 4 hours. So I'm not saying every 2 hours. We're not trying to be a bodybuilder, but certainly every 4 hours will help regulate blood sugar levels. Mood will improve. You feel like you could train as well on there. Ideally, If you can, have breakfast, because you've technically fasted. If you've gone to bed at like 9-10 o'clock and you're eating, like you've woken up at 6 and you've gone to work and you're not eating until 11-12, technically you've done like a 12 over 12 hours, maybe potentially 16 hours fasting, which is not going to be great for your blood sugar levels, and you're not going to feel fantastic. So ideally, try and maybe get a little bit of something in the morning, even if it's just small, just to help make you feel like you can win the day. We spoke about all the key components. I'm not going to go through that anymore, but having that balanced diet is massively key through perimenopause. Hydration wise, then some more specifics on this, like 1 to 2 liters of, so not 1 to 2 liters, 2 to 3 liters of water per day. If you're experiencing lots of night sweat, so you feel like you're overheating, you're sweating more, then having those electrolytes, so sodium, potassium, magnesium, all those sort of things that you would get in those little tablets, those electrolyte drinks, could help sort of stay off fatigue. You will feel a little bit better. Other sources potentially are certain foods like coconut water, bananas, even putting salt on your meals. I know we try and tell people not to put extra salt, but as long as you've got no pre sort of medical conditions, then putting salt on a meal, there's nothing wrong with that. But you can use those hydration drinks. Now, if you want to be a little bit more specific, again, per kilo of body weight per day, sedentary, 30 milliliters per kilo. Moderate, so brisk walking, light strength training, 35 per kilo of body weight. Then with an extra half a litre, potentially a litre per hour of exercise. And then high intensity, if you're doing lots of work or you're working really hard, slightly higher. So you can see it's really easy, 30, 35 or 40. And then while you're doing it per hour, similar to the moderate, so we're staying hydrated. You will lose more fluid. So if you've been training really hard in the gym and you've lost potentially, you may have drunk a litre, but potentially you could have lost a litre of water as you're exercising really hard, because of the after effects of an exercise session where you're feeling quite warm. You probably experienced it. You've had a shower directly after a workout and you still feel like you're sweating as you're doing your hair and putting your makeup on and getting dressed, and you go to the office and you're just sweating. That's the after effects of exercise. So you are still burning energy, but also you're also sweating out. So it's important to keep on drinking after your workout as well. But going back to that previous slide, like 2-3 liters, as long as you're getting that with good quality food, because food, fruit and veg have their fluid as well. That's in there. It will massively help. You feel more alert. You feel like you recover. You hopefully feel like when you are overheating, you can cool yourself down. Last couple of little bits. We've got pre and post nutrition. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time, because I think as long as you're eating a good, nutritious diet full of high quality protein, starchy carbohydrates, lots of fruit and veg, healthy fats, potentially you don't have to worry about this. But if you want to go to the next level, then pre and post workout nutrition can help you recover. Certainly if you're working really hard, if you're a high performer in the gym, or maybe you play sports, this is going to massively help. And the reason why we would think about pre and post is just making sure that we've got enough energy to work out, to train, and we've also got the right sort of nutrients to help you then recover, to then repeat that over and over again through the week. So like pre-workout meal 1 to 3 hours before. So if you've got a meal at midday, lunch at midday, you're not training until 6. You need something before that. So if you look at the bottom right of this slide, potentially 60 minutes or 30 minutes before training, having something before will help you boost your performance. You can't expect to train when you've not eaten for 6 hours. But generally, just a normal meal. Carbohydrates, slow releasing carbohydrates, a small amount of protein, lots of water, your healthy fats. Like a normal meal, 1 to 3 hours. You'll know what can settle. So don't have a heavy curry or a super big meal before you train, because you're probably not going to perform well. So like oatmeal, porridge, with a banana, almond butter, maybe some honey, toast, avocado, boiled egg. The typical things you would have for lunch, typical things you'd have for maybe an evening meal. Okay. And obviously before that, if you've got a massive gap or you want to optimally train, potentially some more carbs, okay, with a little bit of protein in there as well. So things like rice cakes, I'm not a huge fan, but they're really easy to carry in your bag. Honey, peanut butter, so you've got a little bit of protein. Almonds again. Potentially you could have a milkshake, which will give you protein and carbs as well. So there's loads of options there. Post-workout nutrition. Excuse me. Ideally, we're trying to replenish what's called the glycogen stores. Basically, carbohydrates are stored in your muscles as what's called glycogen. So your stored carbs, we're replenishing those. We're then helping our body build muscle. So we're feeding it protein, which then will help reduce inflammation and help us recover after a workout. So ideally, we don't need to worry about like immediately after, unless you need to. That is an option. So if you feel like you're not going to eat for hours on end, then potentially having a post-workout milkshake that's got, like, if it's blended, like a banana, honey, a little bit of protein powder. Something as simple as chocolate milk could do that, or banana milk, something that's shop bought. Loads of carbs, a little bit of sugar in there, and obviously protein. The ratios, as you can see, that chocolate milk tends to be a ratio of 1 to 3. 1 is the protein, 3 is the carbs. It's a great recovery drink. It means that you're going to replenish your energy store so you don't feel sluggish the next time you train. And the protein there is going to help you build muscle. And obviously, post-workout meals, just normal meals, really, things that you would normally have. Usually when I'm coaching women, I give them some recommendations of meals, meal ideas, really. But I think most of you know what you like and you don't like. It's mainly about getting better quality versions of the foods, the meals that you have. But as I said, pre and post, most women probably don't really need it. If you're eating a really good quality diet, this is like the next level of nutrition for women during perimenopause. The main thing is making sure you're getting good nutrients in there, because your energy levels will fluctuate compared to when you were before that perimenopause. And the supplements, purely only if you're not getting enough of the foods. So if you're not able to get it from foods, or maybe you don't like oily fish, maybe you don't like nuts and seeds, potentially you could supplement. Like, I would usually say, like, get tested. Certainly if it's iron, if you feel like you need iron, maybe going to the GP and getting tested on iron. If you feel like you've got low iron levels, then go get tested first. Really, it's the same for all of these, but again, I'm not a huge fan of recommending supplements, but some of these can help, like calcium and vitamin D. Perimenopausal women are more susceptible to things like osteoporosis, because of the reduction in things like estrogen will affect bone growth and bone density. So making sure that you're getting a good intake of calcium rich foods and vitamin D. So if you're not getting out in sunlight, then and you're not getting these sort of foods there, it's probably key to maybe to supplement. So you can see on this little table here why it's beneficial, what food sources. That's why I've put that first. And then if you can't get that, then obviously the recommended dosage. But really, you should be seeing a GP. You should be seeing a specialist in these areas that have got some testing. Magnesium. This can massively help perimenopausal women for sleep, relaxation, reducing anxiety, which can sort of fluctuate with those hormone levels. Can also ease PMS symptoms as well. So bloating or being like, feel like you've got IBS during that perimenopause. Again, I'd always go for the food. So the nuts, seeds, spinach, grains, dark chocolate, but there is those recommendations. Omega-3 oils, I mentioned about this. Like if you're not a fan of fatty fish or chia seeds or walnuts, then yeah, supplementing with those, the fish oils could massively help. But this is going to reduce inflammation. It's going to help with joints. It's going to help with sort of health risks of heart health risks of perimenopause. as well. And then lastly is obviously iron. As you're going through perimenopause, potentially you could be having no periods to periods. Obviously, menopause is 12 months without a monthly cycle, so potentially peri could be a mixture of yes, you've got it, no, you haven't. Yes, you have got it, no, you haven't. So iron levels could be dropping due to sort of heavier periods for that. So like supplementing with iron or getting tested could actually help with energy levels. They're the ones that would have a direct link to perimenopausal women. Another one I would recommend, but I've not put it on there, is creatine, which is usually used as a bodybuilding supplement for men, but there's some massive benefits for women taking it, because it will help you build muscle, maintain muscle, work harder, power-based training. But also there's some health benefits for mental health as well on there, and cognitive function, and there is really no downsides to taking it. So if you want some more information about creatine, do reach out, but I've not put it on this because it's not usually a common one that you would talk about for perimenopausal women. So hopefully this webinar, it's probably gone a little bit longer than normal because there's so much information that I've thrown at you. So we've gone through exercise, we've gone through nutrition, those recommendations. Do go back over those slides because there's so much I've thrown at you. You might not have heard everything. You might not have gone in there. The slides are jam-packed. They're almost like a little mini how-to manual as well. But if you need anything more, then do reach out. These webinars now, I film them separately to share them with people. I do them live where I'm speaking to people, but this one is the one that's filmed. So I've got no questions to answer because I've filmed this before I've actually done the live one. But if you do have any questions, please reach out. I can answer those directly. If you do need to contact me, this is the this is not the webinar. This is the contact details, which you may have seen or may not have seen before. I will be doing more of these webinars. So if you're watching this back, stay tuned. That I'll probably be doing a lot more of these coming up, but hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll get to meet you and speak to you soon.